In the sultry, relentless heat of a Florida summer, August 1st dawned quietly, carrying with it no hint of the tragedy it would soon unfold. For the Pelletier family, this day was supposed to be just another ordinary moment. A young man, Giovanni Pelletier, aged 18, making a trip south to visit relatives in Charlotte County, Florida. Giovanni was from North Carolina, a young man with the hopeful future of a teenager standing on the cusp of adulthood. To his family and friends, he was bright, introspective, and fiercely independent, the kind of person who bore the weight of his worries silently, only ever turning to others when he had nowhere else to turn. That very independence, a quality so deeply ingrained in his character, may have been the very thing that led him down a path from which there was no return. The last time anyone saw Giovanni alive was under circumstances that now seem eerily ordinary. He was climbing into a car with cousins he barely knew. There was no indication that this would be the last time they would see him. No raised voices, no anger, no frantic last-minute phone calls. Just the usual goodbyes, the kind you say when family trusts each other to be safe. But the fragile veil of that trust was ripped away within hours. According to statements given to the authorities, Giovanni's cousins reported that he began to behave erratically. They said that near State Road 70 in Manatee County, he abruptly exited their vehicle and walked off alone into the sweltering Florida afternoon. This area, a stretch of road adjacent to the heavily trafficked Interstate 75, was no place for an 18-year-old to wander aimlessly, especially someone unfamiliar with the local terrain and isolated from the comfort of company. Less than an hour after this sudden departure, Giovanni's mother received a text message that sent chills through her very being. The message was stark, concise, a plea for help, without explanation or detail. It was a desperate SOS from her son, a silent scream that something was terribly wrong. To Giovanni's mother, this message was far from a simple call for assistance. She knew her son's temperament well. He was not one to seek help for trivial problems or to burden others unnecessarily. If he had reached out with such urgency, it meant he was in grave danger, trapped in circumstances he could no longer control. The hours and days that followed saw a frantic search unfold. Giovanni's family, fueled by a growing sense of dread, left the comfort of their home in North Carolina and drove to Florida, determined to find him. They combed through neighborhoods, fields, and wooded areas of Manatee County. Doors were knocked on, strangers questioned, and online communities mobilized to share his story. Friends and neighbors banded together in hope, their desperation palpable as they refused to surrender to the cruel uncertainty. Law enforcement agencies quickly became involved. The Charlotte County Sheriff's Office took charge, coordinating an extensive search operation alongside the Manatee County Sheriff's Office and various civilian nonprofit organizations. This was no ordinary missing person case. Unlike many disappearances where investigators are left piecing together vague clues, here they had something. A last known location, witnesses who had been with Giovanni shortly before he vanished, and a clear timeline to guide their search. Retired FBI Special Agent Frank Brostrom would later describe this as an easy place to start in the unforgiving world of missing person investigations. Unlike the countless cases where a person disappears without a trace, without anyone knowing where they were last or who they were with, this case had a foundation, a starting point from which investigators could build their search. Yet, while having witnesses is invaluable, it does not guarantee the truth. The cousin's narrative that Giovanni had suddenly begun acting erratically, even pulling a knife on them before walking off, did not fit comfortably with the evidence emerging. For law enforcement professionals like Brostrom, this detail raised immediate red flags. He questioned the validity of this claim, especially when set against Giovanni's subsequent plea for help. How could someone who posed a threat to those around him be reaching out for help just minutes later? The investigation intensified. Phone records were scrutinized, Movements were traced, and every statement was dissected and compared against physical evidence. In investigations such as this, once a statement is recorded, it becomes cement, immovable and permanent. Any contradictions or discrepancies between witness statements and tangible proof become the key to unraveling the truth. Days stretched endlessly. The relentless Florida sun scorched the ground as hope began to fade with every passing moment that brought no new answers. Giovanni's stepfather, Jeremy Brown, asked for help.
It has been just there's been nothing else in my life. It's been the scariest time I've ever had in my whole life.
Gio's family is begging the community for any sort of information.
Anytime after 1:30, if you're around River Road 75 North, if you could review any sort of footage, any cams you might have in your car, any ring cameras, anywhere, if you have something pointing, look out for a white Chevy Malibu with 4 passengers in the vehicle.
Jeremy Brown voiced a question that weighed heavily on everyone's mind. How could anyone leave an 18-year-old vulnerable and alone, stranded by the side of the road? What kind of family, he wondered aloud, abandons their own cousin like that? The question hung in the humid air, unanswered and haunting. Then, on a Friday evening, the investigation took a grim turn. Law enforcement officers descended upon a retention pond near the southbound off-ramp of Interstate 75 and State Road 70, the very place where Giovanni was last seen. In the murky depths of this pond, their search yielded a discovery that sent shockwaves through the community. A body. The deputies on the scene described it only as appearing to be a male. The identity was not confirmed immediately. Officially, the Manatee County Sheriff's Office remained cautious, withholding names until positive identification could be made. But for Giovanni's family and friends, the news was a devastating blow, an unbearable confirmation of their worst fears. Retention ponds like this one are notorious in criminal investigations. Overlooked in the early stages of search efforts due to their treacherous depths and muddy bottoms, they often serve as clandestine disposal sites for those who wish to conceal the darkest secrets. The murky waters can swallow evidence whole, while the sheer opacity of the pond hides whatever lies beneath from the untrained eye. But history and statistics tell a cruel story. Retention ponds have borne silent witness to countless disappearances and unsolved crimes across the United States, hiding the grim consequences of violence in their depths. Suspicion naturally fell upon the last known people to have contact with Giovanni. In cases like this, investigative experts understand a brutal reality. Those who last saw the victim are often the linchpin of the entire case. Whether through oversight, negligence, or malice, their accounts hold the key to what truly happened in the final moments before a disappearance. Law enforcement remained tight-lipped on the specifics of their ongoing investigation. But those familiar with investigative protocols could anticipate the next steps: forensic examination of the body, toxicology tests to determine if substances played a role, meticulous analysis of any physical evidence on the body, clothing, or nearby surroundings, and careful cross-referencing of this scientific data against the witness testimonies that have already been locked in stone. These processes would either solidify the official narrative or, more ominously, unravel it. Yet, despite the mounting pressure and public demand for answers, official confirmation remained frustratingly out of reach. The identity of the body found in the retention pond was not immediately released. The investigation remained active, its secrets buried beneath layers of procedure and bureaucracy. For Giovanni's family, the agony of waiting was nearly unbearable. The constant uncertainty, the silent, suffocating question of what really happened to their son, hung over them like a specter. Each day without answers deepened the wound, and every minute without closure chipped away at their hope. This is the haunting reality of the Giovanni Pelletier case. A young man, full of promise and possibility, leaves for a simple family visit and disappears without explanation. He sends a final message pleading for help. Weeks later, a body is found exactly where he was last seen. Yet the story remains unresolved. The truth, whatever it may be, lies buried in the murky depths of conflicting accounts, missing evidence, and unanswered questions. And this case is not unique. Across America, thousands of families suffer similar fates. Loved ones vanish, leaving behind gaping holes in their lives and communities. Their stories often become footnotes in the news, cold cases in police databases, and mysteries for armchair detectives. But behind every case is a family like Giovanni's, desperate for truth, justice, and closure. This story should unsettle us all, because it's not just about one missing teenager in Florida. It's about a system that struggles to protect the vulnerable, to uncover the truth, and to bring justice when the stakes are highest. It is a call to action for every one of us, to be vigilant, to speak out when something feels wrong, and to demand accountability when lives hang in the balance. To everyone listening, pay attention to your surroundings, trust your instincts. And if you ever feel something is wrong, raise your voice. Cases like Giovanni's may remain unresolved for now, but silence only lets darkness thrive. If this story moved you, if you believe these names deserve to be remembered until justice is found, please leave a comment below. Share your thoughts on Giovanni's disappearance. Do you believe the official story, or is there something deeper hidden beneath the surface? Most importantly, let your voice be heard, because one day the truth will come out.